I did want to point out to you a little picture I put on your desk, on your table there. And I want to give you a quote from the famous theologian, Dr. Seuss. A person is a person, no matter how small. Say that with me. A person is a person, no matter how small. And this is a photo taken by an anesthesiologist, and this little baby was the product of an ectopic pregnancy. And when the surgeon opened the mother's abdomen, he plucked out this little baby. Sorry, upside down. Plucked out this little baby from the mother's abdomen, floating on a pool of blood, picked up the little baby by the placenta, and he wrote a description and said that the baby had eyes and ears, nose, and long tapering fingers. And he said that the baby swam with a natural overhand swimmer's stroke in a circle about once per second inside the amniotic sac for about a minute, until the amniotic sac ruptured and the little baby just shriveled and died right before their eyes. And he said that everyone in the operating room gasped when that little baby died, because they all realized that a human life had expired right before their eyes. And he said that the females in the operating room began to weep. And you see, one of my favorite classes in medical school was embryology, where we learned how the sperm and the egg came together to create a human life. When I was in my residency, my second year of residency, I was called to the emergency room to take care of a woman who was in the midst of a miscarriage. And to be truthful, most miscarriages just end in a little bit of blood and tissue that's really not much to look at. But this particular day, I delivered into this hand a 12-week gestation little baby with the bag of water intact. And the little baby was alive in that bag of water and moving about. And the little baby was about 3/4 the length of my hand. And I was just holding this living baby inside a bag of water, the amniotic sac in my hand. The mother raised up and she looked and saw her little baby in my hand. The nurse looked, I looked, and I was astonished because that had never happened. I'd never even heard of anybody having that happen. And all of a sudden, the little bag of water ruptured and that little baby just shriveled up and died in my hand. And I just sobbed. So did the baby's mother, and so did the nurse. Her name was Ann Stokes. I remember very clearly. And I held my hand over to Ann and I said, "What is that?" She said, "Dr. Jackson, that's a baby." And I said, "Yeah, that's what I thought." And I realized in that moment, in that very moment, that at 8 to 12 weeks is when most women went to the Greenville abortion clinic to have their little babies suctioned out of their mother's womb. Women would pay $300 to have those little babies suctioned out of their mother's womb into a plastic bag and then discarded. And I want you to know honestly, that's what catapulted me into pro-life work. That singular event is what lit a fire in my heart and put me into action from a passive family doctor in training into an activist, a pro-life activist. And if you get a hold of my book, and I've got enough copies here for all of you if you want to purchase one, it tells the story of my pro-life journey. And it answers all the hard questions that people ask. What about rape? What about incest? What about handicapped children? All those hard questions are addressed both from a medical perspective and a biblical perspective. Okay? Now I'm half doctor and half preacher. And you're going to figure that out here in a few minutes.